In a shocking new development, WWE President Nick Khan has been identified as one of the corporate officers in the Vince McMahon sex trafficking lawsuit that was filed against him back in January by a former WWE employee by the name of Janelle Grant. Things do not look good for WWE, and they certainly do not look good right now for President Nick Khan. I'm going to read out excerpts from the report. We're also going to be talking about the background of this, what led up to this, what this means, and everything we know so far about this horribly disgusting situation. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. All right, so a little bit of background before we get started. Obviously, this lawsuit was filed against Vince McMahon by a former WWE employee who is accusing him of coercion, sex trafficking, amongst many horrible things. The lawsuit really goes into detail about the depravity and accusations that are levied against McMahon, so I'm not going to get too much into them right now. However, if you want to go read the lawsuit, link is in the description. It also is just one of the most sickening reads of anything to do or anywhere around the world of professional wrestling, to be honest with you. That is the background, and part of this lawsuit was that we knew that there were certain WWE corporate officers. We don't know whether they were executives or what have you, but there were corporate officers who weren't explicitly named or identified in the lawsuit, but it was said that corporate officers either aided in cover-up or were knowledgeable about the relationship. And it seems that Nick Khan is now, in fact, one of those corporate officers. So this is courtesy of Front Office Sports, Tim Marchman, Brandon Thurston, and John Pollock, the authors. Here's what it says. WWE President Nick Khan and COO Brad Blum are the men identified as corporate officers number 1 and number 2 in the sex trafficking lawsuit filed in January in a federal court in Connecticut against the company, former chair Vince McMahon, and former talent relations executive John Laurinaitis. The suit claims that Khan and Blum, whose names have not been previously reported, were instrumental in a scheme in which the plaintiff, a woman named Janelle Grant, was employed in a quote, in a completely unidentified role, except for the understanding that she remained a sexual slave to be used and trafficked by Vince McMahon within WWE, unquote. Unlike McMahon and Laurinaitis, the two are not personally accused of sexual misconduct or violence. Rather, the suit claims that they and others facilitated and covered up exploitation in ways that make WWE liable under federal anti-trafficking law. Goes on to say, give some background about Nick Khan. And here we go. This also gives background on the statement that WWE gave. Quote, WWE takes Ms. Grant's allegations very seriously and has no tolerance for any physical or abuse or unwanted physical contact, a WWE spokesperson said in a statement. Neither Nick Khan nor Brad Blum, prior to the lawsuit being filed on January 25th, 2024, were aware of any allegation by Ms. Grant that she was the victim of abuse or unwanted physical contact, nor does the complaint allege that either had knowledge of such, unquote. McMahon has said that the allegations in the lawsuit are baseless and that he intends to vigorously defend himself. A lawyer for Laurinaitis has denied the allegations and appeared to corroborate them by saying at the same time that, like Grant, his client was a victim in this case, not a predator. Of course, that was John Laurinaitis saying that he has really been one of these people who has, kind of thrown everything at the wall, thrown all the information he knows at the wall in an attempt to try to save his own behind. But it is definitely not working in the PR game. That is for sure. Report goes on to say that Front Office Sports independently identified Khan and Blum as well as 2 other anonymous corporate officers to whom the suit refers by cross-checking the details of the suit against publicly available records like online resumes and corporate filings, as well as information provided by sources familiar with WWE. Corporate Officer 1 is said in the suit, for example, to have maintained a fourth floor office at the company's former headquarters, which a person who worked there confirmed was true of Khan. Front Office Sports then asked Grant's lawyer, Ann Callis, whether its reporting was accurate. And here is the quote from the lawyer: "I can confirm that these names are correct." So Nick Khan and Brad Blum were two of the corporate officers, for sure, that were named or at least hinted towards in this lawsuit. Goes on to say, the suit says that McMahon groomed Grant while she was grieving the death of her parents and had her hired into a fake job with the company's legal department in May of 2019. Subsequent to that, it says that she was subjected to, quote, extreme cruelty and degradation, unquote, including McMahon. Yeah, that I'm just going to read right past that. I apologize for that. Here we go. We have the actual like part of this that matters here, or all of it matters. However, the part that is actually the news here, McMahon presented Blum and Khan after his hiring in August of 2020 to Grant as his key fixers, according to the suit. The first time McMahon met her, it says, was in March of 2019. He promised Grant, who had minimal work history, that his office would reach out to arrange a meeting with him, with Blum, who was the executive vice president in charge of operations at the time. A week later, the suit says that she met with Blum. He, quote, hardly asked any questions, unquote, before long, she had been hired into a $75,000 per year job in the legal department. In February of 2022, the suit says McMahon told Grant that Blum had warned him, quote, that there were a lot of rumors circulating, unquote, about the relationship. Immediately after this, she was transferred into another department. Report goes on to say, years later, after McMahon and Grant signed a non-disclosure agreement he negotiated on WWE's behalf without its knowledge, he ended up paying only $1 million of the agreed upon $3 million. The two had a call claimed would be the last conversation they would ever have, during which he named Blum as one of the two people that she should call if she ever needed anything. The second of those two people was Khan. According to the suit, in March of 2021, Grant told McMahon that Khan had responded to her introducing herself in the corridor by telling her he knew exactly who she was. Later that day, the suit says McMahon told her that he had held a meeting with Khan and Blum and informed them of the nature of their relationship. McMahon told her, the suit says, that the two men had voiced concerns to him and, quote, inquired whether Grant could be trusted, unquote. A WWE spokesperson denies this conversation happened. Report goes on to say, McMahon, the suit says, told Grant that the two, quote, expressed concern but were ultimately supportive, unquote. So that is an excerpt from this report. We'll come back to part of it later on. However, right then and there, you heard and you saw that, this was not a situation where, nobody at WWE and Nick Khan did not know about Janelle Grant's existence. The lawsuit claims that they did, and there are allegations that phone call that they were referring to there, that one of the two people, in addition to Blum, that McMahon told her to reach out to if she ever needed anything, was, in fact, current president Nick Khan. And it is insane to think that given Vince McMahon's stature in the company, and again, these are allegations, and I'm not going to speak in definitives. However, in my opinion, it is insane to think, given his positioning in the company, given McMahon's prior history, and given Nick Khan's role and close relationship with McMahon at the time, at least working relationship, It's insane to think that he was not aware of Janelle Grant's existence. It is insane to think that he did not know, at least to an extent, the nature of that relationship. And that it was, in many people's eyes, inappropriate, ethically. Now, of course, it's possible that he did not know. And if he did not know, then I think that speaks more to Nick Khan's pure ignorance at work than anything. But it is horrible. It is horrible. Now, the report also discusses, potentially Stephanie McMahon's involvement in this situation. This whole thing has been sickening. Like, let's be honest here. This whole situation, this whole lawsuit has been sickening. The depths of depravity of Vince McMahon, were rumored about for decades, but they only recently have come to light in the form of this lawsuit and the text messages that came along with it. And for anyone to sit there and say that, Vince McMahon is an innocent man, for anyone to sit there and say that Vince McMahon has done nothing wrong, at least ethically or morally, I don't know how else to convince you. Because I'm not saying that that I'm the one who's going to be the person to judge Vince McMahon, final and say that he's guilty of everything he's accused of. I can't be that person. I'm not privy to those conversations. I'm only privy to what is publicly accessible. However, given how much information is publicly accessible, it is fair for me to say, I think, that Vince McMahon is definitely guilty of a few things. He is guilty of being a manipulator. He is guilty of being a bully. He is guilty of being a horrible boss by all accounts. And he is guilty of forcing people into situations that they don't want to be in. That much is clear. There's a reason that there are several NDAs. And also, we have a history of Vince trying to convince people into doing things for wrestling purposes that they did not want to do. Now, of course, NDAs have been signed. Some of these things may never come to light. However, it is clear that Nick Khan's involvement in this goes deeper than just he did not know. And it is a problem for TKO. It is a problem for WWE. It is a problem for Nick Khan. Because throughout all of this, the one person that many people have pointed to and said that, well, if all else fails, they have this person they can lean on, like Triple H, all Stephanie, all these other pieces fall. Nick Khan is the one guy who has clean hands in here. And I'm not sure if you can say that after reading this report and after it being confirmed that he was, in fact, one of the corporate officers here who at least knew that there was a relationship between these two. And if he did know, then Nick Khan knew that there was at least a bare minimum. He knew that there was a relationship between the most senior executive at the company and I don't know whether she was junior level staff, but a definitely more junior level staff to Vince McMahon in the legal department. And that dynamic is inappropriate in almost any work relationship. Absolutely inappropriate. And given the accusations in the lawsuit, and again, given who Vince McMahon was and how much people knew him and how obviously involved he was in the day-to-day in WWE, it is insane to think that people in the office did not know. It's insane. Absolutely, utterly insane to think that people did not know. This situation gets uglier and uglier by the day. I remain steadfast in my belief that I feel like anyone who had anything to do with this, whether it was the cover-up, whether it was, knowing about the situation and doing nothing, or aiding Vince McMahon, which it looks like They were helping at least aid him in future attacks if Janelle Grant needed anything. Anyone who had anything to do with the situation, I hope, is held accountable, because the buck has to stop somewhere. You cannot allow this type of behavior to continue. You cannot allow these powerful people in positions of great privilege and power to continue to abuse their power over people they oversee. It's sickening. It's disgusting. It's horrible. That's the only way I can describe the situation. Of course, we're going to stick with it. We're going to stick with all of the updates with the situation. Highly recommend you guys go check out the Front Office Sports article by Brandon Thurston, Tim Marchman, and John Pollock. The link for that is in the description of this video. Also, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Until next time, keep it real.